Hit the big red button.
Hit the big red button. Don't be afraid. I'm not scared. I'm not scared to record. I'm ready. Ready to go.
Professionals, dude.
Professionals. We're trying.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Josh.
And this is the PUDs Podcast.
What's going on, buddy? On the eve of All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
Good call.
What's
it.
the word, man?
Nothing much. Season 2, episode 26. Coming at you.
It seems like they just keep rolling, dude.
Yeah, they
Can't
do.
believe how many episodes in we are.
I know, it's kind of wild. I don't know what the total is at this point. We're in the 50s, I believe. It's probably like 56 or 57.
That's
I think
crazy.
50 was definitely a milestone.
Oh, for sure. And we blew right through it. We didn't even know.
No, yeah, I don't think I noticed until the last episode.
Yeah.
Or the episode before it.
You excited for some trick-or-treating tomorrow?
Yeah, dude, I'm pumped. I got my Goofy costume ready. Ryland's going to be Mickey, and Ash is going to be Minnie Mouse.
Oh, yeah.
So we're all good. I got like a Goofy hat with a head on it kind of deal, like attaches with a headband. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. I don't know. Originally, I was thinking I'd wear like a sort of beanie or something under it to keep from slipping, but I'm not going to wear that if it's 75 because I'm already wearing an orange sweatshirt and jeans. But yeah, I'm pumped, dude. And Ryland's excited to be Mickey.
Yeah.
And I think she's excited for us to be dressed up. So we're looking forward to head over to your place at Tiverton in the PUDs Podcast Studio South and have some pizza and get some candy.
Yeah, man. We're looking forward to it. It's good to get the band together and do this together. It's fun.
Yeah, what are you guys being again?
Yeah, so Jeremiah is going to be Ash Ketchum.
Excellent.
Sawyer will be Pikachu. Melissa will be Charmander. And I am going to be the illustrious Professor Oak.
Professor Oak, where your journey begins in the Pokemon games.
Choose your starter.
Yes. I was always, I don't know, I feel like the first time I ever played it, I was a Squirtle guy.
You Squirtle guy?
Yeah, I was a Squirtle guy.
Yeah,
I probably beat it with all of them, but...
Yeah, I'm 100% a Charmander guy every time.
I feel like you just look like a Charmander guy. I couldn't imagine you with a Bulbasaur.
Oh, Bulbasaur's the worst, dude.
He's I don't think anybody picks Bulbasaur.
He's the best to have early in the game because you go fight Brock and like he's obviously stronger. So like him and Squirtle are like good to have against the rock type Pokemon. So he's good to have early, but yeah, he's easily the worst of the three.
Yeah, I was gonna say with how all that works with Earth Pokemon are like better against the rock Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems kind of arbitrary. Some of those, like the water against fire, like makes sense, but I remember some of them are a little interesting. Like I feel like electric Pokemon weren't good against rock Pokemon, probably.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, that was a fun part of our childhood.
I love
apparently it's still going.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's still a thing, dude. I loved playing Pokemon Yellow because you just start with the Pikachu and it's like, yeah, it's great.
Wasn't that like the first one that maybe was like in sort of color at the time too? That might have been like a Game Boy Color entry.
That's a good trivia. That's a good trivia fact. Gotta look that one up for down the road.
Those were the days.
Those were
the days.
Man. Looking forward to it. I just I played another round of golf and it was very similar to the round before. Not too bad. It's been a good season late in the season, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, again, mentally, you're probably just like getting out and it's like, whatever. If I shoot well, I shoot well. If I don't, I don't. I feel like both of us are pretty good at not taking it seriously the past couple of years, though, which I feel like has generally been fruitful.
Just swinging loose, just not putting too much pressure on it, not trying to do too much. Just let the game happen. It's a gentleman's game. You're not meant to go out there and sweat. You're just meant to go out there and take it easy.
Did you hit any polls or anything this time, like last week?
No, I played it. I definitely played it differently.
Smart.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was nice to play it for the second time. It's a nice cheap little course. So it's check it out when you get a chance.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get over there before winter rolls in fully.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The ball gets painful to hit. There's nothing like hitting into frozen ground with golf because if you miss hit, it really really hurts. It just reverberates into your entire skeleton and your skull, and you really can feel it. But yeah. So Saturday, I snuck up to Cannon Mountain and bagged that for fall with our guest tonight, and my buddy Steve. So we had a bunch of fun. It was good to get back there, and it wasn't nearly as icy as it was a few weeks back. And I actually decided to bag that in the morning because I was going up for the day anyways to work on some recording for a project that will be announced at some point when it's done.
Super secret.
Yeah, very, very secret. Very secret. It was great to be recording music and working on stuff again. Had a lot of fun.
Nice.
Perhaps in the Woodpecker Studios for those of you that are in the know. But was fighting off some cats that were investigating my guitar, trying to disturb my concentration, but they're adorable. But yeah, we had a good time. And then Sunday did some yard work and actually got to a local trail system around here. So in Rehoboth, it's actually unaffiliated with the town, but it's called Rehoboth Land Trust. And they're sort of a conservancy group that takes care of a bunch of sort of, I guess, land areas that were donated by people. Nice. In Rehoboth. So there's one called Ephraim Ministerial Road, and there's just sort of a nice little, like, I don't know, 1.5 2 mile loop that goes kind of through the woods and over some swampland and stuff. And we took Rylan, and Rylan actually probably walked like the last half mile out with holding our hand. So that was pretty cool. She was having a lot of fun on the leaves, and she had to step on every single tree root and like balance on it.
Of course. Classic.
But it was chill. That's really all that was going on this weekend. So I think I'm gonna have to probably eat crow, as they say, because I think I might have called out the blow up like decorations probably last year on the podcast. Okay. I feel like I did, because I remember you gave me a hard time about it. But the neighborhood that I've been taking Rylan to walk in at night has a bunch of them, and there was a ghost one that she really liked, so I ended up buying like a 9-foot blow up ghost that also lights up.
You gotta do it, man. They're cool.
Dude, it's super cute too, because Rylan actually, like, she has to say goodnight to it every night before she goes to bed. So it's like, it's kind of a creepy, like, claw ghost thing, and she's like, "Good night, ghosty. I love you." Like every night.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah, man. But that's about it.
That's awesome, man. Cool. You want to get into the music moment?
Yeah, man. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. So Nick's music moment is sponsored by Roots Coffee Roasters. Find them at rootscoffeeroasters.us. Head up on there, grab yourself some beans. They got the Columbia. They got the Columbia Dark Roast, the Legacy Blend. I know they have some new stuff that's going to be coming out real soon, so keep an eye out. Follow them on social media at Roots Coffee Roasters. And if you use promo code PUDs10, you'll receive 10% off of your order. So head on there. You can get some whole bean. They'll grind the beans for you to your specifications. Make sure you check them out. And remember that part of the proceeds go to drilling wells in Asia, Africa, and South America. And that's rootscoffeeroasters.us with promo code PUDs10 for 10% off your order.
So tonight's music moment, I've got sort of a refreshed throwback of sorts. The album that I chose for tonight is Antics, the 20th anniversary edition by Interpol. Just came out in this year. Originally came out back in 2004. So Interpol is a New York City-based band that I've been into for a while. I would say arguably one of the tightest bands I've actually ever had the privilege of seeing live. And I've seen quite a few pretty big acts live, like Radiohead and whatnot, some of my favorite bands, but super tight. I thought that was worth mentioning. I'm sure best friend of the podcast, Nate, would agree. We've seen them, I believe, twice, and they were excellent both times. But these albums sort of harken back to when I was in college. I sort of discovered Interpol, and the first Interpol, I sound like a New Englander. I discovered Interpol back in college when I was going to Rhode Island College.
The Rick.
The first song I ever heard from Interpol was actually off this album. It's called Come Here. And I vividly remember still, it was actually in a surf video of people surfing a pretty famous surf spot off Newport called Ruggles. That's actually right near Breaker's Mansion and stuff. Sweet. And they actually put this song to the soundtrack in it. And I ended up looking it up and kind of falling in love with their music from there. I think some people find probably the lead singer's voice a little interesting. He kind of sings sort of monotone, but they definitely have their own unique sound. And I think they've done a lot of creative stuff sonically over the years. And they're also probably a little bit bigger in Europe than they actually are in the US, from what I understand. They're definitely popular, but maybe popular a little bit overseas more so than here, which can definitely happen with artists. So some of my favorite songs off this album, even though I think this album is fantastic, it's the sophomore album by Interpol. Evil, Narc, and Slow Hands are all pretty notable. songs. I know if you see them live, they'll probably play those, and these were all pretty big singles when they came out. And yeah, it's just a good album. I don't have much else to say about it. I really enjoy listening to it, so hopefully some of you will too if you check it out. So Antics 20th Anniversary Edition by Interpol.
Word. Nice, man.
So
I got a jazzy. I got a jazzy tonight.
I wasn't going to skip you tonight. I remembered.
Thank you. I appreciate
you. You only want to skip when I remember not to skip you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, and I don't know if it's necessarily a jazzy music moment. It's more of a question, I guess. And maybe it might be a topic for episode that we have to do down the road. But so we were listening in the car the other day to Soft Cell's Tainted Love, and it just brought up a question that I wonder, and you know the song obviously.
Yeah, Tainted Love.
Yeah, sometimes. You know what that reminds me of too is the Coneheads. I love that movie.
You took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, isn't that in the Coneheads? I think it was in a couple probably. Was that 80s or early 90s?
That's the 80s.
80s.
So
okay.
That brought to mind, is the 80s the generation or is that the era of the greatest one-hit wonders of all time?
It does seem like there's a lot of one-hit wonders from the 80s. I don't know, though, if that's us growing up in the 90s, though, and hearing a lot of those hits on the radio, but it does seem like there are a lot, like, I'm assuming Tainted Love was also a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I would guess. I would think. I don't know if I know anything else by Soft Cell, but yeah. I think maybe a topic for discussion, maybe somewhere down the road. Maybe we have an episode where we talk about greatest one-hit wonders or era of one-hit wonders. Maybe we'll have Spencer back on for that episode.
Yeah, maybe. I'd love to get Nate on the podcast to talk about that as well. I feel like he'd be fun. Yeah, there's surely on the interwebs, there's someone that's done our research for us, and I'm sure it has like one-hit wonders from every decade, so we can just print out something and roll through it.
And we can break it down. But yeah, so that was on like a Spotify like 80s channel, and it was just like hit after hit after hit, and I'm like, I don't think these groups have done anything else except these songs. But yeah, Tainted Love, Soft Cell, first and foremost, but the Coneheads, maybe one of the most underrated movies of all time. Maybe one of Chris Farley's most underrated roles.
Is it underrated?
I think it might be underrated, dude.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a cult classic at this point.
Sometimes I feel I got to run away.
Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd at his finest.
Yeah.
Sinbad's just he owns the electronics shop, dude. Oh my Lord.
I always remember the scene where he puts, is it like a fuse he puts in his mouth or something?
Oh yeah,
Dan Aykroyd's character,
and he fixes it.
I think he puts a fuse in, like it's just it's so off the wall bizarre, but it's amazing at the same time.
Would you like some chewing gum? It's just like a condom. He's just chewing on a condom.
Yeah. Oh man,
it's a great movie. Great movie.
Go back and watch it.
I hijacked the music moment to talk about Coneheads, the movie. That was basically it.
It's fine, dude. All right.
You ready to get into the main topic? Our illustrious guest that you've so kindly kept anonymous so far.
Yeah, we'll keep rolling with that. I don't know if he's that mysterious, but we're gonna keep with it. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
All right. So the illustrious guest and the mysterious guest that we were alluding to tonight is my friend Jake, who I've recently kind of met, sort of recently. Goes by jakesterd2 on Instagram, I believe.
That's correct.
And what's up, Jake? What's up, man?
What's going on? How are you, Josh?
I'm good, man. It's nice I've heard so much about you and from Nick, and it's really great to finally put a face to the name.
It's good to finally meet you too. Been listening for a while, thanks to Nick.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I'm gonna blush here. I blush over here. So for the not visual listeners, Jake's headphones are awesome. They're like super bright green, very stylish. Like, I'm very much liking the headphones. It would look good with the shirt I'm wearing right now. I feel like it'd match very well. But
That was the first thing I thought when when I signed on.
It's giving me Ninja Turtle vibes, dude, and I love it.
It's my Xbox headphones.
Oh, that's even better. That's even
Excellent.
better.
Excellent. So, Jake, do you want to sort of introduce yourself and sort of your hiking background and climbing background as well?
All right. Well, my name's Jake Dalbec. I from kind of central Massachusetts. My hiking background actually stems from my climbing background. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, me and a good friend of mine we kind of self-taught ourselves how to rock climb, and started local in the Newton area. Had a friend who had some gear who was said he knew what he was doing, so he taught us a few things. And the more we were looking,
foreshadowing.
the more we were looking at how other people were doing things, he didn't really know what he was doing.
Interesting.
So back in the early 90s, me and my buddy bought a lot of books and talked to a lot of people and kind of learned how to climb. Got started on just this little crag in Newton called oh shoot, I forget the name of the crag now.
That's all
right.
All good.
But it's only like 30 feet high, and it was great for learning how to tie knots and set anchors, and taught ourselves really a lot there. Moved on to Leominster, and little by little, eventually we made our way up to New Hampshire.
Nice.
New Hampshire's a much longer drive than Newton. So, at one point we were getting up there 3 or 4 weekends a month, to rock climb, and we're already there. We're spending the weekend there, and all right, it's raining. We can't rock climb in the rain.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, I would imagine.
That's kind of what introduced us to hiking. We're like, all right, I'm not going to climb. Let's see how far we can make it up Mount Washington before we have to turn around. Knowing that the weather's not great up there. I've got pictures of in the early 80s, my dog's leaning against the table.
I was like, I'm getting seasick.
I've got pictures of back in the late 80s, early 90s of us on, the summit of Mount Washington with, Gore-Tex jackets and jeans.
Nice.
No,
Nice.
not the jeans.
Yeah.
Not the jeans.
Yep. But, that was a long time ago before we learned a lot more, before I learned all the gear that you could have and all that. A lot of military gear. My buddy and I were both in the Marines, so we both had done some cold weather training. So we had a lot of cold weather gear. But that's kind of what got us into hiking, and we didn't know a lot about the 4,000 footers. There's Mount Washington, Mount Chicorowa. That was pretty much what we normally did.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing back then was definitely the climbing. We spent a lot of time at Cathedral Ledge, White Horse Ledge, even the little crag right above the Saco River where people put in to go tubing. There's lots of little cool climbs right up there.
I didn't want to stop you because you're on your sort of origin story, but is there a lot of rock climbing in Massachusetts, like a lot of different crags in different areas and stuff? I know you mentioned Leominster and stuff, but it's not something I would think of. I think the only place like I've seen before that I've hiked by is I think it's called Crow Hill Ledges. That's up kind of near Wachusett.
That's in Leominster.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
There's probably a lot more now than there was back when I was climbing. Not that there's more rock, just people have found more places. When we were climbing, everything was a guidebook or somebody had to tell you about it. So everybody was walking around with this big thick guidebook in their hand, trying to figure out, okay, I want to climb up this route. I want to climb up this route. Yeah. My buddy and I got together. We don't rock climb nearly as much as we used to. life got in the way. We had kids. My buddy lives in New York. So we try to get together once a year. At this point, we usually hire a guide if we're going to go, go somewhere exciting. Just takes a little,
or perhaps terrifying if you're like me, but
yeah, well, there's definitely a little bit of that, but it, when I got into it, I wasn't I was quite a bit braver, and, I'm over 50 years old now. So hiring a guide kind of takes the edge off a little bit,
That's a good point.
a little bit off of the sharp side.
Before we get too far, I guess, into the stories, because you mentioned how climbing kind of branched off into you really getting into hiking. What made you go out and start climbing rocks in the first place? Like, what? Because I don't think that's ever gone through my head. Like, you know what I want to do? I really want to go up and like climb up some rocks.
I mean, when I was a real little kid, you used to see it on the Wide World of Sports on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, we had been to Crow Hill, Leominster State Park a couple of times with my mom when I was real little. And, the little hiking trail, and then over at the pond, and you see people climbing. You're like, that looks really cool. I'd like to try and do that. We had gone to North Conway a couple of times as a little kid, and you can see people as you're driving by on West Side Road. You can see people up on Cathedral Ledge or White Horse Ledge. I'm like, that looks really cool. I want to try and do that.
Yeah.
And then I got older, and like I said, I knew somebody that had some gear, didn't know what they were doing, but we just kind of taught ourselves.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So basically that drive from being a kid and seeing it, and the worldwide
cool.
leader in sports,
Exactly.
bringing some of that passion your way. That's really cool. Like,
Exactly.
How do you begin to even prepare to take on something like that?
Well, back then it was reading a lot of books and just sitting there with a piece of rope and saying, okay, this is how I tie this knot. This is how I tie this knot. And just once I was comfortable with the knots, I mean, I was in Boy Scouts. I knew a lot of the knots. Now you got to try and put it, into practice.
Yeah.
And just having somebody that wanted to do it with you was really what it took.
Yeah. Is there a bunch of different types of knots that you're kind of using while you're climbing? Like, I know as a fisherman, I know like probably 3 or 4 different ones for different applications. And they're one of those things I just know them since I've been young too. I didn't necessarily know the names. My fingers just like know what to do. But I was kind of curious, like getting to the weeds a little bit on the different knots and when you might use them and things like that. There
are tons of different knots that you're going to use for all kinds of different applications. But most you're bowling on a bite, and really I don't even know the exact name for it, but it's like a double figure 8 that then goes through your harness, and then you trace back around the figure 8. It looks like a figure 8, but it's gonna have 10 legs, not 8. Really, that's about, you can get away with pretty much just that. It's once you get into some of your other trickier things that you got to figure out how to tie other different knots. But to get started, you can get away with basically just that figure 8.
Interesting.
So when you get started, I guess, because I mean, you can explain hiking. Hiking is you find the trail and you just start walking. But when you get started, like rock climbing, like because I've never done it. Nick, I'm pretty sure you've never done it either.
No.
So like when you get out to the base of this rock that you're climbing, what does that process look like? Do you start climbing up? Is there anchors involved? Like what does it look like when you get going?
So as far as finding the route that you're going to use, when I was climbing regularly, the guidebook looks just like the White Mountain guidebook.
Okay.
And it tells you you're going to walk in this trail, and then after you get, so far, you're going to take a right and you'll end up on here. you're up against the base of the rock, turn right at the rock and go about this far until you see, a rock that looks like this. That's the beginning of your climb, and then you're going to be able to follow the crack or the wave or whatever.
Okay.
And it describes the route just like it would describe a hiking route. Except you're going vertical instead of, you're going straight up instead of, angling up the mountain.
Yeah.
As far as protection goes, most of what I was climbing when I was lead climbing was what's called trad climbing, traditional protection, which is removable protection, which can be as basic as wired nuts, which is a piece of wire with it looks like a nut, a kind of like an angled wedge that and they'll vary in size depending on the size of your crack, that you're going to stick in the crack. You pull it down, and it's basically gravity and friction that's holding it in. Then you get different style anchors. You've got cams, which will go in horizontally and the strap will go over it, and it's got a hollow groove in the back of it so that when something pulls on the strap, the cam will actually rock back like a cam, and that'll wedge itself in there. And then you've got tri-cams and camelots, which are a little bit more mechanical looking. It's got a wire on the end of it and a trigger, and there are 4 or 5 cams that will squeeze closed. When you pull the trigger, you put it in the rock, and when you let go of the trigger, those cams open back up. So as you put tension on the wire end of it, that'll actually force it open to stay in the rock more.
So is it like locked in, like even as you're just climbing up with the rope going through it, or is it meant to like basically pull back harder where you to like fall?
So if you were, it's gonna stay where it is as long as you don't have too much rope drag. You don't want it to change. If you got to be careful about where you put your rope into that, because if it pulls too hard on the rope and it starts pulling up, or the opposite direction of whichever way you want to do it. There are times when you want to, might want it to be an opposing, but that's a little more complicated. But you want it to stay mostly in the downward pointing position, because if it starts going up above, if the tail goes above where the piece of protection is, it can pull itself out of the rock, basically. So when you're climbing with no tension on the rope. There's anything above
tension, right?
right. Well, so anytime you climb above your last piece of protection, you're in essence free climbing. If you fall above your last piece, if you're 5 feet above your last piece of protection, you're going to fall a minimum of 10 feet plus, however much the rope is going to stretch.
Oh, right. Because that makes sense. That's funny to think about. So, because you're 5 feet and then you're going to 5 feet below it because the rope's 5 feet and you're in gravity.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just for the lead climber. Whoever's following, they're completely tied in. So the lead climber is going to go up first and zip everything up and get all the protection in. He's finally going to get to the top. He's going to set up his anchor. And then the follower is down below and, he's tied into the other end of the same rope typically. And, he'll belay you up and you're going to clean all those pieces that you just put out.
Okay.
Now, that's traditional climbing. That's what I typically did. For the first time in my life, I went to Rumney a couple of weeks ago, and that is sport. That is sport climbing, which when I first started climbing, I kind of shunned it. I didn't really care for sport, the idea of sport climbing. but now that I've done it, and now that I'm a little bit older, I can see the appeal to it. So sport climbing is, you're still lead climbing, but instead of putting in your own protection, somebody's gone up and drilled holes in the rock and put anchors with eye bolts on them. So you're just hooking a sling in and then putting your rope into that sling. And it's a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen any indoor climbing, but it looks similar to the indoor lead climbing. You know what I mean? You don't have the added thought of trying to find where to put the protection.
Yeah,
the
because
protection's already there.
Yeah, you're just headed, and it must make your line really obvious too at that point, because you're kind of just following where the protection is, right?
It can make the line a lot more obvious.
Okay.
One of the downsides to that is now, like I said, I stopped climbing regularly in the 90s. I still get out once in a while, but not like I used to. One of the downsides is, well, you can go literally anywhere. So the routes are right on top of each other.
Oh, okay.
Like I was watching people that actually had to pause in their climbs because one person was crossing over somebody else's rope. They're like, all right, I'm in a safe spot. Go ahead. You get up to your spot. And they're crossing over and under each other's ropes. And I'm like, all right. Like I said, that's now. There's routes that there's dozens of routes that have been put up since, I stopped climbing regularly.
How does that work too? Does someone just decide to go up there and they just drill bolts in and that's it? Like, is it legal to do that? Like, maybe that's a stupid question. I don't know.
So there are groups that kind of run the areas, and the locals are the ones who are setting the routes and setting up the new routes if new routes are happening. Okay. I've never been one to set, find a new route, lead a new route, anything like that. I'm always following somebody else's,
safe.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a question since we're kind of on that topic. So now you're climbing, right?
Yep.
Which sounds exhausting to me. So how do you find if you need a break, like what, you just kind of hang out, like hold on and just chill for a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the routes that we're doing, there is a lot of break in between if you're lead climbing. Even a multi-pitch climb, like Cathedral has got 4 or 5 pitches on it, and they're longer pitches, but you're only going 100 to 150 feet at a time.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So, maybe even 200 feet. But still, the first person's going to lead, and you're sitting there and you're belaying them up, but you don't have the strenuous part on your body right then and there. So then they get to their anchor, they get a little bit of a break, while they're belaying you up, and then you switch. Whoever's leading the next pitch goes on. So you're only looking at a few hours either way.
Yeah.
But it's not, and that's on the big, long multi-pitch climbs. The shorter climbs, all right, you got to take a break. You take a break.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask too. Like when you were climbing. Oh, do you have a question, Josh?
Yeah, just real quick.
Okay.
Just
no
because
problem, dude.
you said it. You said it a few times. Can you explain what belaying is?
So the belaying. So you're both tied into the rope, and the climber. You have one person is climbing. The other person is the belayer. He's the person who's got he's going to catch you if you fall. He's the one who's going to catch you with the other end of the rope. So it goes through a belay device that's hooked onto your waist, and it's, it acts like friction basically. So when that person comes down, if that person falls, you've got the rope hand and a brake hand. All you do is drop your hand drop your brake hand, and that friction is going to stop the rope from moving. So the person's not going to go any further than the rope stretches, basically, as long as that person doesn't outweigh you by a significant amount.
Caveat.
If that's the case, which I have been in that situation, then the person that is, now this is assuming we're both on the ground, right?
Okay.
If I'm on the ground, a lot of times I won't necessarily tie into something else. If the person outweighs me by a significant amount, I'm going to tie off to a tree, another rope, something like that. That way, if the person who is climbing that outweighs me does fall, I'm only going to go as far as that tether is going to allow me to go.
Because otherwise, what would happen? Would you get basically lifted off the ground at that point?
You could get lifted off the ground.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds unpleasant.
Especially if it's a bigger fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's just going to pull you. Yeah, that's pretty nuts. It's crazy. This is just such a fascinating world to me of logistics and things that you're doing.
That's why I want to ask these questions, because I'm like, I have a general idea, but because I did Boy Scouts and stuff like that too, and I did a little climbing, but I wasn't paying attention really too much. To go up.
Exactly.
And it was indoor in a safe space where there was nice rubber pellets that I could fall onto if I came down. So.
Sure. Now, going back to the belaying, if you're doing a multi-pitch climb, as soon as you're both off the ground, everybody's tied into something secure all the time, right?
Okay.
So
that's what those anchors the things that you were talking about before, you tie into those. Okay.
Yep. When the first leader gets up to wherever the first belay spot's going to be, he's going to be tying into, a tree that happens to be there, or wrapped around a rock. Even in the completely trad climbing, there are some spots where you're going to see a couple of bolts that'll be drilled with, rings in it. We call them rappel rings, wrap rings. And those are okay. It's completely traditional climb to get to this spot, but there's nothing safe to say, okay, if somebody else is climbing above this one spot, this anchor spot, and fall, it's a safer way to do it. Just to have every once in a while. They're also there for bailout points. In the whites, the weather can change fast, right?
We all know that.
So, all of a sudden you're halfway up a face and, okay, weather's turning. It's going to be faster to go down than go up. All right, we're going to get down to this spot, and then we're going to hook into the wrap rings and rappel off rather than do the last pitch up.
That's great.
That's cool. That's good. That's good info.
So back when you were climbing, or even out, is there anything that you would do to actually get in shape for climbing at all? Or would you just be climbing so much that because I imagine does it take equally as much leg strength as arm strength, or because when I think of climbing too, I think a lot of people have images of Alex Honnold or whatever in their head where he's just hanging on one arm or something crazy like that. But
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I was curious, and to Josh's point too, to throw back to his question, I imagine, do you ever end up in a spot where you're just your arms are just fried or whatever, and you're just I can't go on? No, sorry, that was a big question, but
yeah. So when I was climbing regularly, no, my to stay in shape was mostly just climbing. Okay. I was living in Boston at the time. I didn't have a car. I just take the T over to Hammond Pond Parkway. That's where it was, Hammond Pond. So there was a little wall that was only about 20 feet high. There was a little bouldering alcove that was only about 10 or 12 feet high. And I'd go over 5 or 6 days a week, and I was just climbing all the time.
Yeah.
As far as, arms versus legs, yes, it's just as much legs as it is arms. You're obviously, with some exceptions, depending on the exact route that you're climbing, but it tends to be a lot more. It's a lot more technique than physical strength. When the last time I climbed was over at the Eaglet, it had been almost a year since I had climbed last, and I got out there on the first pitch, and I'm going, this shouldn't be this hard. What am I doing? Well, I'm trying to literally muscle everything up, and that's I don't have the I don't have the upper body strength to just climb hand over hand. All right, slow down, think about what I'm doing, use your technique, get your legs where they need, get your feet where they need to be, and oh, look at that, everything got so much easier.
That's excellent. And for our listeners who aren't familiar with the Eaglet's this giant, I think it's one of the only like spires like that in the Northeast, I believe, right?
As far as I know,
yeah, but maybe 100, how tall is it? A couple 100 feet high?
I want to say it's about 150 feet high.
Okay. It's more or less this giant granite spire though that shoots off sort of the eastern side. If you're driving up on 93 North, the right side of Franconia Notch, sort of peeling off the whole Franconia Ridge area, and also right near where like the Watcher is, if you know sort of where the Watcher is. But yeah, it's on that side, and it's a pretty amazing to look at. Yeah, but just to describe where it is.
It's very cool. You can't even tell that it's a freestanding spire until you're like right on top of it on the highway.
Wow.
Yeah, wild.
It kind of blends into that whole face behind it.
So since you brought it up, you want to kind of bring up climbing that, and no, you did that pretty recently, right?
Yeah, about a month ago.
Okay.
A month ago. Yeah, so a couple of years ago, my buddy that I climbed with was like, Jake, we haven't climbed in forever. Let's get back and do some of the old climbs that we had on our bucket list when we were still climbing. But instead of let's take some of the pressure off of ourselves, we'll hire a guide. Okay, great. So the first time we had actually hired a guide, we went and climbed the very last climb that we had climbed together, which was Recompense on Cathedral. Okay. But we had tried climbing that together. We got up to a certain point, and he's like, Jake, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it today. What are we going to do? Let's bail. So we rappelled down. Up there, hired. Oop.
Well, might have lost you for a sec.
Did it? Okay,
Hello?
I wasn't sure who lost who.
All right, hold on.
We're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you lose him at all, Josh, or is it just me?
Yeah, just a little.
Okay.
A little glitch.
Yeah, that's all good.
We're all right.
Okay.
We're good.
I think we're back.
All right.
All right.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. All right.
So anyway, we hired a guide. We went back and we redid that climb, and it was fantastic. Didn't do anything for a year or two. Fast forward, we're at the Alzheimer's hike, at the Alzheimer's hike party, and we met one of the sponsors. Or my friend Nate wasn't with us, but I met one of the sponsors. Me and Peter, who you've met, Nick.
Yep.
One of the sponsors is a rock climbing guide, so we're like, all right.
Right on.
Sweet.
So we ended up hiring him and did a climb last year. And then we're like, we really want to do the Eaglet next year. So this year we got together and we did the Eaglet. And it was one of my favorite climbs of all time.
That's awesome.
It's so much exposure. You look down, like crazy views of the notch that are from a completely different angle than what you're used to, very similar to what you see on top of the Watcher, but it's you're further down in it, it's a 3-pitch climb that kind of wraps all the way around the spire.
Okay.
You start like you're looking back towards the cliff at the Watcher. Mm-hmm. And every pitch goes a little bit more. You go clockwise around it. The first pitch goes about a third of the way. The second pitch, you actually go up through this little chimney, and then wrap a little bit more around the backside. and the final pitch goes up, like I said, about 2/3 of the way around it. You kind of wrap all the way around the back and come up the almost 360 degrees
Wow.
around the spire from where you started. Oh, it's all good. My dog barks when people come home.
That's all right. What's the dog's name?
His name is Charlie.
Charlie.
Let's introduce. So hello,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie
here, Charlie.
just wanted to say hi to the people. That's all.
Right?
Yeah.
There he is.
Hi, Charlie.
Look at Charlie.
Charlie. What a good dog.
It's a good boy.
He is. But he is very defensive. So.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
So yeah, you wrap all the way around this spire and you end up on top of like a flat rock that's about the size of a dining room table.
Oh wow.
You get the three of us just kind of standing there. You got to take turns bending over. You're going to whack each other's heads.
So you said this was about 150 feet, right?
I'm guessing about 150 feet.
How
'Cause
long
we had-
does how long does that take to do?
Probably took us about 2 hours, maybe a little less than 2 hours. We took our time.
Yeah,
I've seen people do it much faster,
I'm sure.
but we took our time. We had such a good time, such great views. Took a lot of pictures.
That's awesome.
Is that the only route like up the Eaglet really? Like pretty much everybody follows, or because I know there's like names for the routes and things like that, right?
As far as I know, there's only excuse me. As far as I know, there's only that one route up the Eaglet.
Okay.
I know there's lots of climbing. I mean, lots of climbing around. There's tons of routes across the street at Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I know, there's only that one route up the Eaglet.
Cool. Cool. Well, probably a good. Oh, sorry, Josh.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
We're gonna get into something else that Jake did. So if you have a question about this thing,
I just wanted to say, but I guess before we get into the next thing, so if you said that was one of the best hikes you did, climbs that you did, what would you say is your favorite or your best climb that you've done?
Like that's one of my best, one of my favorites, one of my best. I have a lot of memorable ones. The first time I did Huntington Ravine was actually rock climbing it. Okay. We rock climbed up you got the regular hiking route, and then if you look off to the left, you've got that very sheer wall. We went right up the face of that, and it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
I got down to Seneca Rock, West Virginia once back in the 90s, and that was an amazing place. If you've never seen it, it's like this. It almost looks like the backbone of a mountain just sticking up.
I'll have to find a picture of this to post with the episode. I haven't looked it up yet since you mentioned it the other day either.
You know what? I'll send you a picture or two of me on the summit back in the day.
Excellent.
But if you've ever seen videos of the knife edge, on Katahdin, it's very similar to that.
Oh wow.
Okay.
It's like sheer drop on either side.
Oh wow.
So
that's insane. That is insane.
It's pretty darn cool. I'll take. I don't have any digital ones, but I'll take pictures of the pictures and send them to you.
That'd be much appreciated. We'll share it with the listeners when we do our posts.
Yeah,
sure.
So you had mentioned this guide. Which do we want to shout out the guide too and give him some props?
Sure. His name is John Willard of Willard Mountain Guides. He's awesome. He's a lot of fun. We had a great time with him.
Cool.
Great time.
Cool. And, you had mentioned that you had done a route up the Cannon Cliffs with him the year before when you guys finished that. So, and I have a memory hankering back to, I didn't even realize like that was as much of a thing until I believe I was in Steve Smith's store, The Mountain Wanderer, and he has, or at the time had a photo, and it's actually like outlining all the different famous routes up Cannon. Yeah, I think that picture's probably been around a lot, but I was kind of like, there's established routes up there, and I'm like that to me was like that's one of the first times I ever realized it's kind of like a duh, like it's some of the craziest like cliffs in the Northeast. Like obviously there's climbing routes, but it's kind of wild to see it. And I know you tackled the Cannon Cliff Swim, so did you want to talk about that and sort of what made you pick that one and whatnot?
Well, it's so we did Whitney Gilman, which is one of the classic climbs on Cannon. Yeah, it just kind of goes up the prominent. So if you're going north up 93 and you'll get Cannon on your left, there's a very kind of prominent like right angle face on the kind of towards the left hand third of the cliff.
Okay.
It comes out, you got the face, and then it kind of juts in some, and then there's a huge dike inside the middle. That's one of the famous ice climbing routes, but we end up on top of that. It was always on our list, and we're like, what do we want to climb when we hire this guy? Well, let's do Whitney Gilman. And it's got a lot of exposure. Back in I'm guessing the 60s, they'd actually, it might have been the 70s, I'm not sure. They had tried to make the climb so the crux move, the hardest move of the climb is you're kind of leaning back and you're going just over this little hump, but the way the rock is below you, what would happen is your rope would kind of drag on the rock underneath you. So you're trying to go up and you're leaning backwards, and you got the rope dragging underneath you, and it used to freak people out. So they actually drove a pipe into the rock, into the gap in the rock. So the theory was they were going to try and drag their rope up through this pipe, so it's not dragging on the rope on the rock. But the pipe, it's known as the pipe pitch, I guess, and it's a really exposed, really cool pitch. But it was cool to see some of those relics from the the early days of climbing still there.
Now, for a climber to say that it's really exposed, what does that mean? Is that like you're looking out like 1,000 feet down beneath you, and you're just like, or?
I think Cannon is only 900 and something feet.
Okay. Only.
But
almost approximately 1,000.
by exposure, I mean you don't have a ledge underneath you. A lot of times exposed, you're leaning back. You're going up over a bulge, so the rock is, could be, you got rock above your head and nothing below your feet. You know what I mean? Depending on the route, it's just you going around a corner and there's nothing underneath you.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's really cool.
Definitely out of the trees,
Okay.
and stuff like that. Cool. You're not in a crack or a crevice. You're not going up in a chimney. It's just out in the open.
It's just, I'm trying to imagine it in my head. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now that you've slowed down, you started hiking with this guy?
I've been hiking with Nick a little bit, yeah.
I believe we crossed paths when Mike of Slasher Podcast was looking to bag Owl's Head, and I think I had befriended him at maybe actually the 5K that's coming up, and it mentioned, and then he needed it for winter, and I think Jake, Peter, and Steve all joined that day.
Yep.
Where like snow squalled on us at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I busted my forehead open with micro spikes on Owl's Head.
Yes.
And Jake had a Band-Aid, which was very handy.
I had Band-Aids in my hip pack.
So that was a good deal.
It was a good day. It was a good day.
Dude.
So yeah, I've been doing a lot more hiking since the climbing days have slowed down. I haven't finished any of the lists, but I'm tracking all of the lists.
Oh, that's awesome.
So my wife and I actually started keeping track of our 4,000 footers. It was actually 11 years ago last weekend.
Oh,
Cool.
So all the 4,000 footers I've done, all the ones that we have done, Nick, I have done with Julie before.
Yeah, have been repeats.
Right.
Yeah.
I have not done all 48 of the peaks, but I have done way more than 48 peaks.
oh man.
Yeah.
So we've got a few more, and she's given me the okay to go ahead and finish them if I want, but you know, she's still getting out there with me every once in a while. So, you know,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I know too, we briefly mentioned Peter, but probably worth mentioning him since I know you do a ton of hiking with Peter, who is actually working on tracing, redlining the entire White Mountain Guide, which you've tagged along for a lot of that. So I'm sure you have a lot of interesting stories about finding trails that most people don't even know maybe exist.
He's very close to finishing up. He
right
probably
Peter.
Probably won't be done this year just because of you know, road closures and stuff. I think he's shooting for spring. I think he's got a plan for that. But yeah, I've seen so many interesting trails. You know, do 22 miles in a day and see like 2 other people.
Wow.
You know, just because there's so much else out there that you know, isn't on the list and isn't right on the highway. There's plenty of place to get away and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, even thinking back to a few weeks ago, I got out to like Mount Crescent and Mount Randolph, and that's something not on any lists or anything, but that has some of the best views of the Northern Presidentials I think I've ever seen. And I'm glad someone mentioned it to us, because I wouldn't have known to go up there.
It's got awesome views. I mean, you know, in that area you've got Ice Gulch, which is known. It's on some of the lists, but you don't have any views from Ice Gulch itself. But yeah, up in Randolph, you've got some amazing views. You were up on Randolph and North Randolph and Crescent. You've even got awesome view way down lower. I don't think you guys were over that way, but there's this rock called Castle View.
We definitely saw a sign pointed out. We just checked out Lookout Ledge, but I remember seeing signage for it. So
Castle View, it's not even 1,000 feet up, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's half a mile from the road. Great little spot, and you get up there and you're looking right at Mount Adams. It's awesome view.
That sounds very doable.
It's not that bad at all. It's really not. I can see, you know, locals going up and having a picnic, just sitting there on the rock.
We gotta scout some maybe some morning hikes for next time we're gonna be up together, Josh. So
that sounds
I don't know,
good,
maybe we'll put one of those on the list.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Kind of on that tangent, or I guess not tangent because we asked you about it, so it's not tangential. But anyways, is there any sort of spots and sort of lesser known trails that have you gone through with like Peter that have been kind of like blown your mind, where you're like, oh, this is super cool and nobody talks about this? Or don't blow the spots if you think it's gonna give us hate. But
no. But one spot that I know people talk about and I had never been to was the Bald Faces. I know people talk about it, and I know it's a very popular route at certain times of the year, but the views from the Bald Faces were epic. They were amazing.
Awesome.
I couldn't believe how awesome they were over there.
Yeah, you guys had a killer day for that too. It looked beautiful.
It was amazing.
Cool.
And we saw mountain bikers on the summit of South Bald Face.
What?
Yep.
Can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, I've done my fair share of mountain biking, and that's just beyond anything that I was ever interested in.
Wow.
You know, there was somebody else that was asking the guy, he's like, how much of that trail do you actually, you know, ride? He's like, more than 90% of it. I'm like, I don't want to ride up 90%.
Yeah.
Sick.
You know, I wouldn't mind going down, but I just don't want to pedal that much up.
That's wild. That's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there was a group of about 6 of them. But yeah, bald faces were amazing.
Super cool.
The little bit that I've done up in the Mahoosucs, the views they're just different views that you're not used to seeing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Just looking at the presidentials from a different angle, or the Carters from a different angle.
Mm.
Another really interesting view, awesome perspective was I did this with Mike and Peter and Steve, the Stanton Parker Langdon Traverse.
Okay, so yeah, like kind of trying to. That's kind of like more or less like heading towards Bartlett on 302, like that northern side. 302.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We ended in Bartlett, like just outside of Bartlett Center. You know, the 4-way intersection in Bartlett.
Mm-hmm.
You ended like right there.
Okay.
But it was a really cool view of Washington in isolation from the southeast, I guess.
Okay.
You know, you looking at it from a different angle. That was really cool.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll get out to the Bald Faces one day. That's my Bald Faces, Eagle Crag, and Eastman are my last 52 of the view. And as Mike Trokey's told me, I'm just really milking that 52 of the view finish, I guess, at this point, because I don't think, granted that we're getting November, I don't think I'm going to be heading up to the Bald Faces unless we get like a really nice day and it's ice free.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to do it, you're going to do the Terrifying 25.
I would like to get that route done, and we'll see how it is. I've heard that it's a doozy in spots, but not necessarily undoable.
Yeah,
cool, man.
Think we're rounding this thing out. I guess before we kind of close out, Jake, is there anything that you're looking forward to doing? Is there anything that you have planned that you wanna check off the bucket list?
Check off the bucket list. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just want to get, just as long as I'm out there, I'm happy.
Yeah, letting life come to you.
Exactly.
That's it, man.
With my buddy Peter doing the redlining, so I don't even have to think about it too much. What are we doing this week?
Just kind of show up and hike. Good deal.
That's awesome. Cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Do you want to mention where the people can find you? Maybe on Instagram if they want to.
Sure. jakesterd2 on Instagram. It's JAKESTERD 2. Cool, man. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming on, especially with the short notice. Yeah, no problem.
We only hit you up a few days ago, so we appreciate it. That was super interesting hearing about the logistics of climbing, and
love it.
And yeah, that was really interesting. I like how you kind of get in. It's crazy too, just those little tools and sort of not gadgets, but like
they are.
Your methods of like falling in, or like just seem to me like there's such like whoever invented that was like brilliant to make it work like that, invent cams and things like that. I'm sure his patent made a lot of money. But
I'm sure.
But thank you for sharing your stories of climbing with us, and hope to get out hiking with you again soon as well.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much for coming on. Maybe have you on again. We'll talk Boy Scouts for a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right, Jake, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh. Good to meet you.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
All right, so tonight's descent is brought to you by Adventuristic Clothing. Adventuristic Clothing is a amazing clothing company by our good friend Lori. It's all designed by her, and the entire company is run by her. All the prints, all the ordering, she does it all, and she's doing a fantastic job at it. So all her prints are generally inspired by nature, hiking, outdoors, anything sort of in that vein. She's got some really cool stuff coming out for the winter. I believe November 1st, we get a drop coming out for her winter collection. And if you want to check them out, you can use code PUDSPOD, PUDSPOD, over at adventuristic.com, ADVENTURISTIQ.com. And you can get 20% off your first order and free shipping. So check them out at adventuristic.com.
I can't wait. By the time this episode's out, that winter release will be out, and I can't wait. Get your Christmas gifts. It's time.
Yeah, it is time. Seriously,
it's that time of year.
Yeah.
All right, man. What have you been watching?
I have something this week. So I've actually got two things. So the first thing that I should have mentioned last week was I watched the whole Vince McMahon Netflix thing.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
He's an interesting individual. He seems
yeah,
like
he's something else.
yeah, it admittedly a complete scumbag, but also arguably the best and most brilliant promoter that's
Yeah.
ever existed.
Yeah, great.
I mean, I
great
didn't realize he was a
businessman.
billionaire. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, he's
And
a great
also,
businessman.
and also, I think it's fascinating that out of all these guys that are billionaires, how many do you think would be out there actually wrestling in the ring and doing that and being a character in the shows?
I forget too if they show like there's like one time where he's like running out to the ring and he slides into the ring, but he hits both of his knees on like the edge of the ring and like blows out both of his knees, dude.
Yeah, I don't know if they showed.
I don't know if they
think
showed that.
one of the clips that stuck with me the most was talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really know where my character ends and I begin anymore." And I'm just like, "That's kind of spooky." Like
Yeah.
he doesn't actually. It's like I don't know who the
Yeah.
real me is anymore because I've just been faking it so much my entire life
Yeah,
and kind of doing my thing. It was
it's so true though.
a little eerie. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. That's a great documentary. That's a
Yeah,
great
I
little
highly
documentary.
encourage anybody. I mean, we grew up kind of. I feel like when I watched it was sort of the Attitude Era. Like we were
Yeah.
probably like 2000, early 2000s,
Mhm.
late 90s kind of deal.
A
There was
lot
a
of
lot of blood.
NWO, a
Yeah.
lot of Degeneration X,
Yep.
a lot of The Rock and Stone Cold, Undertaker, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Mankind when
Oh my gosh, Mankind.
when,
That's a
The
good documentary
Undertaker-
too if you ever find that. I forget what it's called, but the Mick Foley one's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. When the Undertaker slams
Yeah, the Hell in the
Mankind
Cell
through
match.
the top of the cell. Oh yeah, that's
Crazy.
epic.
Mick Foley's tooth actually like bust out and ended up coming out through his nose.
Yeah,
And he didn't notice it until later in the match.
crazy.
Wild.
Great stuff, dude.
So yeah, that was interesting. And my second one was Ash and I, because this is like just parent life, but we split it up over 2 nights. Not that it's a long movie, but we actually ended up buying the new Beetlejuice movie, Beetlejuice.
Oh, nice. How
And
was it?
it was good. I think it's very much worth a
Oh, wow.
watch for a sequel. I mean, obviously nothing beats the original, but I thought it was very funny, very witty. Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is just amazing again. And they had a few of the original people come back, and they also had a couple cameos in it, which I don't want to blow away. There was definitely some people in it that must have just been big fans. And directed by Tim Burton, so it's all good stuff. It's not like it's produced by him and he didn't touch anything else. I know just from listening to a couple of interviews with Michael Keaton that they've really been getting offers, understandably, over the years with scripts and storylines
Right.
of what to do for a sequel. And I guess they finally got one and sort of worked on it. They're like, yeah, this could work. So
It's showtime.
it was cool. It was good. Maybe about a 2-hour running time, but we split it up. And yeah, there were some parts where I straight up just busted out laughing, like a lot of dark humor, as one
That's
would
cool.
expect in a Beetlejuice movie. But it was really good.
That's good, man. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So anything you've been watching?
Yeah, man. Continuing to plug away on Penguin. Penguin is that's like my favorite show right now. That's really good. So plugging away on that, and we actually watched a movie. It's spooky season, so we watched a little spooky movie. A new movie that has just came out this year. Trapped, or I think it's Trap actually. Trap from M. Night Shyamalan.
Is that the one with the preview where they're like in like a stadium or something?
Yep. So basically, it's Josh Hartnett, obviously big
Pearl
time,
Harbor.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, big time actor, Josh Hartnett, and yeah, if you watch the trailer, this isn't really a spoiler. If you watch the trailer, basically he's at a concert with his daughter, and it's a trap for him, who is like a serial killer. And so
Yeah, I feel like you could very much get that from the trailer too. We're definitely
Yeah,
not giving anything
yeah.
away. I've seen it a few times.
So it's I won't really give too much else away, but it's not gory at all. I don't think there's any blood in the movie at all. So it's way more of a psychological thriller than anything, and it's really like what's
Yeah,
going to
love it.
happen next type of
Love
deal, and what's this guy going to do. It's not, by no means is it a great movie, like plot wise or anything like that, but it definitely will keep you entertained. for the
Cool.
majority. So yeah, check it out, man. Trap.
Cool. Trap.
It's on HBO Max if you have it.
All right. Excellent. Do you have a hypothetical for us, perhaps?
Oh, you know I do, buddy. You know I do.
All right. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
All right. What kind of weird stuff are we going to get into tonight in this
It's gonna be
hypothetical?
strange. It's
Okay.
gonna be strange, Nick.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Nick.
Josh.
You work in an office performing a job that you find satisfying and which compensates you adequately. The company that employs you is suddenly purchased by an eccentric millionaire who plans to immediately raise each person's salary by 5% and extend an extra week of vacation to all full-time employees. However, this new owner intends to enforce a somewhat radical dress code. Every day, men will have to wear tuxedos, tails, and top hats. During the summer months, male employees will be allowed to wear gray three-piece suits on casual Fridays.
Tails is just a suit with the tails on it. Suit
Yeah,
jacket
it's
with
like
the
a
tails on it.
tuxedo.
Okay.
Yeah, a tuxedo with the
Okay.
tails.
Okay.
Women must exclusively work in formal wear, preferably ball gowns or prom dresses. Each employee will be given an annual $1,500 stipend to purchase necessary garments, but that money can only be spent on work-related clothing. The new regime starts in 3 months. Do you seek employment elsewhere?
Yeah, probably. Like, honestly, that seems
Really?
very strange. Very strange.
No,
Very strange.
really.
I don't have a problem with wearing a tuxedo or anything, but I just feel like the women wearing ball gowns and prom dresses seems very strange. Like someone's gonna break this up at some point. I'm
Something's
getting
up.
bad. I wouldn't leave immediately. I'd probably start looking for jobs though. It's not like I would be like I'd show up for as long as I needed to. Like, yeah.
Yeah. The hard part for me is like you're performing a job that you find satisfying. So I'm satisfied in my work. Like I like the work that I'm doing.
And you already have to dress up for every day too. Like I feel like we should
Yeah,
weigh
I already have
in.
to- yeah.
I work remotely. I used to have to wear a pants and like a dress shirt every day. So
Yeah. I'm already shirt and tie, so all I'm doing is
Yeah.
basically throwing on a
Yeah,
tuxedo jacket.
Yep.
And that's basically it. with
switching to a bow
tails.
tie maybe.
It would be strange though to see me out there fielding customer complaints with a tuxedo on, looking like Harry and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber.
Looking like the Six Flags guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I would I think I would. I'm getting a 5% bump. They're paying for me to, like, they're giving me the money to buy the clothes, so it's not coming out of my own finances. I think I stick around.
Yeah,
I think I stick
respect that.
around. As long as I
respect that.
continue to, I mean, I guess we'll see what would happen after the new regime starts, and if the work culture and all that stuff kind of goes down the drain, then yeah, maybe I'm probably gonna start looking. But if I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, I'm getting compensated adequately, and then I'm getting 5%. Sign me up, dude. I'm good. I'll wear that tuxedo.
Maybe he's throwing like cocktail parties for everybody every night or something. That's why
Yeah.
you have to dress up.
And I look great in a tuxedo and a top hat, so
do.
I'll
You do.
lean right into that character.
I'd love to. I mean, I can picture you in a tuxedo and a top hat very easily.
Putting on
I've
the
seen you
Ritz,
dressed
dude.
up before, but you look good dressed. You're just one of those dudes. You look dapper when you're dressed up.
I'm dapper. It's the
Very
face. It's
dapper.
the bone structure.
It is.
Every
You're-
day I would just come into the office when you do where fashion sits, putting on the Ritz. Oh man,
Oh gosh.
nice.
All right. Happy
All right,
Halloween,
man.
everybody.
Happy Halloween. Don't forget, like, review, subscribe. Find us on social media at PUDs Podcast. And check us out when we put up videos. You can find us on YouTube
Yep.
at PUDs
Leave
Podcast.
us a review. We could use some of those. We need to
Yeah.
order stickers because I'm out of stickers.
Yeah, we got to get new stickers with the new
we got
logo.
some fresh ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got some things coming up. So
Exciting
us
stuff.
out. Keep your finger on the pulse of the PUDs. And until next time, bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye.
PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Hat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.